CEN coming in with a new large-scale rally. This is the Puma Rally1, a 1/8 scale rally car. What's going on, everyone? Today, here on the bench, the new CEN release. This is the Puma Rally1. This is a 1/8 scale rally car, as they note it here, and it looks fantastic. Getting this thing out of the box for the first time, I was so immediately impressed. For one, the licensed Ford and Red Bull WRC rally car was an absolute shock. I had no idea what I was going to get into when I finally received this in the mail, and pleasantly surprised. Now, this is labeled as a 1/8 scale rally car from them. It's not exactly an 8 scale buggy underneath, though. 8 scale just kind of going overall toward the more, actual scale size of this to its full-size counterpart. So you're going to find underneath things that are more 1/10 scale familiar to you. But the size is larger than what you would expect if you were thinking of a 1/10 scale Tamiya rally car or something like that. But getting into the appearance side of this first, we have the Lexan shell that's got a great set of graphics on it. The Red Bull graphics actually have a metallic or, an actual shiny look to them, which overall just the mix of screened graphics on the body itself and the decals that were applied over top of it really helps sell this thing. It does have stickered windows, but on a vehicle like this, I can't imagine that too many people will be put off by that. Along with the great looking Lexan body itself, we also have a number of hard molded body accessories. This big rear wing here looks fantastic, helps sells the look of the WRC car. It's got 2 large molded washers on the inside of the body to help give it some support. Hopefully it stays on there. I can imagine just beating on this car pretty good. So some hard molded accessories I do have concerns out. That wing I imagine will be all right for a while, but depending on how absolutely brutal you are on this car in the long run, maybe it could have some problems. Also, these little inlets here in the back corner, those are an extra hard molded accessory to give this body even more depth. It does have a sticker over the top side to help blend it in, not just see the hard molded black plastic. Again, those are supported from the inside as well, not just a single screw holding them on that will easily rip off. You actually have some nice backing to those. Going from there, you've got these wing mirrors up here. Those will be my biggest concern. I don't know how long those will last. We'll see when we get this thing out on the dirt, but again, it really depends on how you want to drive this. If you're driving it kind of scale to rally, you're going to be drifting it around, things like that, but not absolutely tumbling it like a basher, then maybe you're going to be fine, at least for a longer time period than if you just absolutely abuse this car. But regardless, I think they did a great job with adding the detail on there and helping to just really finish off the look of this body. But the body itself is not the only thing that impressed me, although it's one of the most impressive parts of it. Going to the other parts, you can see the wheels and tires. Of course, we do have the P0 licensed tires and a very rally appropriate wheel style on there. As you can tell when I picked this up, it actually has a lot of wheel travel. So it should be a fairly capable rally car. I think you're gonna be able to do more than just some manicured dirt baseball fields and things like that. But of course, we'll see once we get it out there. On the back side of the body, we do have a lower rear diffuser. That is not attached to the body itself. That's actually attached to the chassis. The body is attached to the chassis with 4 body pins. So remove the 2 on the top. Up front, you got them on the hood. I feel like one little bit of a missed opportunity. We have these body pins right here on the hood. And right in front of the body pin holes, we have scale stickers that look like hood clips or hood pins. Like, you could just maybe put that around these ones that we're actually using rather than just adding the other ones on there. But not that big of a deal. With the 4 body posts removed, you can lift this thing straight off. On the underside of the body, you can see those molded parts that help support the rear wing, the inlets, and the wing mirrors. And then we come to the chassis underneath. Now, you'll see these large plastic sides, but the chassis material itself has got this aluminum center section. So it should be extra rigid and not just some plastic tub chassis as you could have expected to see, but I feel like they went the extra mile. That aluminum chassis has some depth to it as well. It's got a kick up in the rear section as well as a small angle in the front as well. As we mentioned, that rear diffuser bolts on to the back side of there, helps support the body and also give it some of that extra style, including the little exhaust exit there. Up front, we have a similar part. This is more of just your front bumper support. Molded piece goes up. You've got the foam bumper itself. It's got a top brace that goes back to the diff case and shock tower area. Front body mounts mount directly to that front bumper. The rear body mounts mount off of the rear shock tower. You do have quite a bit of adjustability on the shock side. You've got 6 shock positions on each location. So if you feel like playing around with that geometry a little bit, seeing if something's going to work better for you, you have a little bit of availability there. Inside of the tub itself, of course, you have the battery compartment off to the passenger side. And then up top, we've got the electronics package. This is a Hobby Wing Max 10 RTR setup, the SCT, which is a 100 amp ESC, so a nice power package inside there. And you've got a 3000 kV motor. Now, when I was sent this, I was given some notes saying this is 2S and 3S compatible, but 2S, this thing is a ton of fun. So doesn't necessarily require 3S, and on 3S power, evidently, it can get pretty silly. So I think that I'll probably try this on 2S, but I mean, 3S is always, maybe I can just modulate my throttle usage a little more. We'll see. We'll see which way I end up going. That 100 amp Hobby Wing ESC does come with a Dean style plug installed out of the box. So depending on what style plug, you either be ready to run a Dean's or possibly think about an adapter or solder your own on there if you like. In front of that ESC, the servo that's underneath is a Savox branded. I believe it's a 12 kilogram servo on there. Probably a fairly standard, ready to run quality servo. Now getting into a little bit more of the chassis design. As we talked about, it's got that aluminum chassis center, and then we've got the plastic bits that basically go over the top of everything, giving you these big sides. The intention with some of this appears to be to try and keep the inner portion of the tub clean. Rally cars, they know that you're going to run them in dirt. What it also appears to be is that there's 4 additional little body post areas popping up here in the center. There is no extra parts that come with that or anything like that, but what I'm assuming, fairly common in the rally world, is that this is going to have a chassis protector to go over top to try and keep all of the dirt and dust and debris from piling up on the inside there. Now, of course, if you close up your chassis, airflow may be an issue. The motor does have a heat sink with a fan on top of it to help extra, add some cooling to that. And the ESC has an active fan on top as well. Also, those will help. But this is kind of a theme that I've noticed on a number of the parts of this chassis. It looks like that there was some aerodynamic design thought about with the flow of this chassis. The front section of the chassis here, they has some openings. Now, that opening facilitates the steering linkages actually coming through. But even with the steering at full lock, the tire doesn't look like it should be shooting dust and debris into the chassis. Now, some can still get in there, but the plastic does appear to be guarding it from the direct injection of dirt from the tires. Instead, those areas look like they've got a bit of an inlet style design. So hopefully air coming from the front of the car is going to find its way into those areas. And then there's also what I would call exhaust vents in the back side of the chassis and some vents here on the underside. So it should allow for some air to come into and exit the pan, even if you've got that protector on top. It appears that's what they were thinking. Whether or not that's just wishful thinking, who knows? I had one of the old DRX Kyosho rally cars, which was more of an actual big 8th scale chassis underneath of a large Subaru body back in the day. And that was pretty open and violent. This one appears to be a little bit more closed off, kind of more towards how a lot of the 10th scale, Tamiya style rally cars are used and designed. And I feel like we're somewhere in the middle there. One other bit of aerodynamic influence, it appears, is the A-arms. They have some like an airfoil style design. Looks like it's trying to bring the air up and into that portion of the chassis. Maybe it's the case. It sure looks like that was the thought with design. Now the rear shares that same design, and while that may be pushing air up into that rear diffuser, kind of above where it would be effective, it does share the same A-arms, both front and rear. So the trade-off, hoping that it worked in the front, the maybe slight downside that it would have in the rear if it was effective in the first place, would probably be not a big deal. The shock towers on the front and rear of this appear to be 3mm thick aluminum, feel nice and rigid, and have some laser etching on them for a little bit of extra branding. The shocks themselves are an all plastic design. Plastic cap, plastic body. They are a threaded body and they do have a preload spacer on them. The preload spacer is all the way up, so there's more preload in it if you decide to add. The preload spacer's pretty difficult to thread down on those plastic bodies. I feel like you probably got to reduce some of the tension on there before they really want to get moving. And once they're dirty, might be even more difficult. There's no sway bars on this car out of the box, although it does appear that there are provisions on the diff cases for them, possibly. The arms being shared front and rear, there's 2 sets of shock pockets on there. Front uses one set, the rear uses the other. So if you're installing it, you're likely going to cross them over and use the opposite set of pockets in either case. This is a 4-wheel drive, as you should expect from any rally car, but in case you didn't know, it's got a direct drive from the spur and pinion direct to the center shaft drive that goes to either diff case. It does have all metal gears in the diffs. The axles in this are dog bones all the way around. You do have turnbuckles for the upper links all the way around, so if you want to make any adjustments there, you do have that available. They're 3mm, so nothing too beefy, but they are steel, so nice to have the adjustability over a fixed link. It'll get the job done. Almost the entire car is hex head hardware, except that we do have some Phillips head in a number of places. The upper and lower kingpin screws on the front knuckles, as well as the hinge pin screws here at the lower section on the outside of each corner. The radio for the Puma is the regular amp 30 radio that we've seen from CEN in all of the vehicles that I've owned from them. Not sure if they have another model that they include in anything. Pretty run-of-the-mill RTR level radio, nothing special, just the bare bones to get you through. Although it does have a channel 3 button up here, just a 2-position, likely something you could use for something like a light controller. If you wanted to be able to toggle lights on and off, that would be an option there. You do have trim and endpoint adjustment over here. It would be digital in that way, which is a bonus for some. But beyond that, just a regular run-of-the-mill. Nothing too crazy. It does have a rubber wheel, or a rubber wrapped wheel, so grip is not too bad. Next step for this will be getting it out and doing some running. Being that it's a rally car, I'll try and mix it up with some dirt, some gravel, and some tarmac, all 3. While the scale stylings and the proportionally correct overhangs will look really good, I can imagine that we're gonna beat things up, which is a shame because this thing looks so good. But I'm excited to get this thing out and do some running with it. We hadn't seen a lot of options for rally cars of this scale available until recently. Seeing a couple of new ones pop up makes me excited to see what may be coming in the future. Maybe CEN will expand even more on this platform. They've got a solid base there, and I think this was a great start, but maybe we'll see even more options from them. If rally is an area that you're interested in, do you have the 1/10 scale smaller versions already? Or is this just possibly going to be the first one that you add to your collection? Put your comments below. Let's start some discussion. As always, I appreciate you guys watching these videos. Hit the like button if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you're not already. Hit the notification bell so you see the videos as soon as they get uploaded. And let's go hit the dirt.